if the NFL was Congress, Peyton Manning would still be waiting to get in.
A check for $250,000 gets you in charge of a committee.
No, that just gets my base dues. That puts me in good standing and that I can continue in the committees I'm in. Probably a committee's probably $5 million, maybe something, $3 or $4 million. I don't know. Some of them raise a ton of money.
$3 to $4 million buys you.
I'm not making you uncomfortable. Am I?
No. I talked to one of our friends, and he told me that.
Let's move into the corruption inside Congress.
Yeah.
You'd mentioned something about the whistleblowers and how they need to be careful with communications and who they communicate with and the calls. And so I'm interested to hear how concerned are you guys with your communications to each other, your colleagues, me, anything?
Every bit of
it. Very concerned.
I think everything I do and say is at some point tracked, at least the cell phones or, they gave me a cell phone when I first got to Congress. I said, I don't want it.
They gave you a cell phone?
They gave us all a cell phone. Yeah. They gave everybody a cell phone. And I'd got my own. I still, I'm sure they can, if they want it, they can get it. I'm pretty small potatoes. I'm the 435th most powerful member of Congress. But the real corruption in Congress is in the structure. And Eli alluded to it very eloquently earlier about, the funding, how you have to raise money. You raise money for your conference. You're issued a bill when you get there. Everybody is, the Democrats and the Republicans. Everybody talks about it. And, they'll tell you, we're going to see how you do in your committee selections if you want to move up, how you do, on your bills and how you're doing and how you do across the street. And what that means is you're not technically supposed to make fundraising calls from the office. You have to go across the street, the Capitol Hill Club or someplace else. And how much money you raise for the conference. Literally, we've had committee chairmen that have written a personal check and been made chairman of committees. Personal check. So, I've said this many times that if the NFL was Congress, Peyton Manning would still be waiting to get in.
Wow.
Because it's not about putting the best player in. Because if it was, you wouldn't. I always remember this. Steve Cohen across the aisle, don't agree on anything, but he's my friend. He called my mama when my dad died when we were in the state legislature. I remember one time we were looking at each other, and this old chairman came up the aisle, and he's no longer there. So he came up the aisle, and they called for the vote, and he turned to the little girl that was beside him and said, "How am I voting on this?" And she says, "You're for this, Mr. Chairman." He goes, "Oh, okay." Puts his card in, hits the green button. I remember looked at Cohen, and we just shook her head. Because that structure is in place. You got to understand, when you're a chairman, you'll have, 25 or 30 people maybe that work under you. And then all those people's jobs require, and they're out whining and dining. They're not supposed to be, but surely they are. Whining and dining, and they go on the junkets and they go on the trips, just like you are as the chairman. And, it's just constant. And they raise the money. And they have to get in that spot, they have to raise the money. And so they keep them in that spot because you're a chairman and you're the one who ultimately decides if your bill is going to have a rough go in your committee or not. And so, it's just a completely corrupted system because of that. Because I'm not a billionaire. Eli's not a billionaire, and we don't represent a lot of billionaires or millionaires for that matter. And it's just tough on people like us because I can't raise the money that some of these guys can. Not that I told my wife the other day, if they begged me to be a chairman of a committee, I don't think I would do it just because of all the nonsense that's involved, all the stuff you're expected to do and the money.
What if you had a billionaire to write that check for you?
That's what happens. That's how they own you.
Well, I think he's saying if you had a billionaire that shared your worldview and wanted you to fight. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Are you willing? Are you that billionaire?
I wish I was, Tim. I wish I was.
Yeah.
You got a soul.
Be a good chairman too.
Yeah, I agree with you that. If you had one that shared your values, but that gets squishy, man. You get that.
What does that
call.
check look like? I'm just curious. What does the check look like to get you?
I think my dues this year are $250,000. I'm a low man. Because I'm in a not in a wealthy.
A check for $250,000 gets you in charge of a committee.
No, that just gets my base dues. That puts me in good standing, and that I can continue in the committees I'm in. Probably a committee's probably $5 million, maybe something, 3 or 4 million. I don't know. Some of them raise a ton of money. Man, they come in there and they announce how
$3
much.
to $4 million buys you.
I'm not making you uncomfortable, am I?
No. I talked to one of our friends, and he told me that when he first got to Congress, he was told that he needed to stroke I think like $150,000 check if he wanted to be on a certain committee.
Yeah.
And so he had to call some of his donors, to fork up so that he could be on that committee. But to Tim's point, it's a big part of the corruption in the structure.
And you can get to the bribery and all that other stuff and how people are compromised. And I've talked about that till I'm blue in the face, but it's and that's a reality too. People have family members that work for.
I mean, I'm just thinking, as concerned as people seem to be.
And none of this is illegal, though. That's the problem.
Well, what I'm saying is, yeah, you're right. It's not illegal.
But it's immoral.
So how do we get you guys a couple of billionaires to fund you to be in charge of a committee? I'm not even fucking around here. I'm being serious.
Yeah.
That's a good
I don't
question.
know. Maybe some of them watch SRS, dude. I don't know.
Well,
But
maybe that's why we're having this discussion.
Even then, you would probably still need leadership to sign off on it, wouldn't you?
Yeah. And, since we've,
So I don't think that's going to
voted
happen.
against McCarthy, of
Even
course,
if
that upset a lot of the structure because a lot of people had a lot of money invested in that structure.
Because that had never happened before, Shawn.
Never.
Not in the history of our country had that ever happened.
Yeah.
So there's still a lot of butthurt about it. You know what I mean?
Because they'd invested a lot in that structure, and they could make the call and say, hey, I need some help with this. Can you pick up the phone and move this along?
And
What committee would you want to be on?
It goes back to what I was telling you. It's why I believe you need people that don't want to be up there, right? To go and I think it's even healthy for me personally. I have this, I visualize the swamp finally getting me at some point. I believe they're going to get me. They're going to get rid of me. And that's okay, right? Because it's just like, I'm not there to be a career politician. I'm there to try and change the system. And in knowing that, I know that it's going to I'm going to face opposition, and I'll have a lot of people that don't like me. But one thing I hope that, the example set is going to cause is I hope other people that are better, smarter, more talented than I am see that you can come into Congress immediately. And you don't have to fall in line and do what you're told. You can actually represent the people that sent you there and try and change the system.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.